Here's the thing about getting older. It happens so gradually that you can convince yourself that maybe it's not happening. Sure, other people get old and die, but not me. My gray hair didn't come in all at once. There were just a few at a time. I could even pluck them out or convince myself that they were highlights. Those laugh lines, there are just a few of them really, and besides, I think they augment my smile. But there was one highly visible harbinger of aging that took place in a moment. One clear marker that told me, you, my dear, are on the home stretch. It's only now that I've stopped bleeding, that I fully appreciate how important it was. It started in an instant, and for me, it stopped in an equally sudden instant. And now that my menstrual cycle has ended, I realize what shaping influence, a mystical ingredient, a century it really was. I started late, at least it felt late to me. All of my friends had started, and I felt childish compared to their sudden sophistication. Like they were in an exclusive sisterhood, and I wasn't yet welcome. I remember thinking that they had a different look to their faces, a vividness that must have come with a program. And they had curves while my body remained stubbornly skinny and indistinguishable from a boy's. Knock-kneed, freckled, red-headed, awkward. I was counting on a complete transformation when menstruation began. The details of the sisterhood were discussed in hushed tones with an impressive dedication to indirect referral. It was like they were speaking in a secret code that I couldn't translate. I remember my friend Rosemary explaining why she couldn't go swimming with me like this. I have a friend visiting. I was confused. What friend? Who? That makes no sense. I'm visiting you. Her staunch and pious refusal to explain herself, despite my ongoing interrogation, had me completely baffled. I suppose that's when I had my first glimmerings of the shame involved here. Apparently this was all unmentionable. Why else come up with so many code words? Monthlies, the crimson flow, on the rag. There was something dirty about all of this. It was blood, after all, scarlet, red, messy, a death of sorts, and look where it came from. The great unmentionable, the innermost regions of your body. It turns out the creation of code words for the most natural of feminine functions is universal. People the world over rely on euphemisms for this socially unacceptable topic. The Germans call it Strawberry Week. Brazilians take off on the visiting friend theme with the jaunty, I'm with Chico. In China, the preferred phrase is, its little sister has come. And the Danes get creativity points for, there are communists in the funhouse. My mother was helpful when I finally did start menstruating, but her approach was to take it on as a hygiene problem. Things had to be cleaned up and properly disposed of, tidy-like. There was gear involved, belts, pads, and buckles. There were decisions to be made, regular or super. She showed me the secret stash of powder blue colored boxes in the cabinet under the bathroom sink. Tampons were not allowed. When I asked why, she became uncomfortable and said something unclear that implied damage and danger. Too embarrassed to ask for clarification, I worked with the ridiculous pads and the incomprehensible belt that never fit properly. The shame factor was reinforced if you were caught unprepared. I can still feel my adolescent horror over the bright red rose that bloomed on the back of a white skirt in 9th grade. From then on, I realized you had to carry an emergency pack with you, like a survivalist expecting the end of days at any moment. My father added embarrassment to the mix when he learned of my initiation and announced, in front of his new wife, with whom I was still staking out territory, so I understand my little girl is a woman now. Good God. This meant that my mother had talked to him about this intensely secret thing. They'd had a conversation. And that my father had told his wife about me, about this, about the pads and the belts. Burning with embarrassment, I wanted to crawl into a hole. which historically did happen. I remember when I read the book, The Red Tent, I first understood how tribal this whole thing is. A cosmic lunar miracle happening every month to women the world over. A common physiological bond that we all share. I learned about the way women living or working in close proximity to each other align their cycles and establish a rhythm together. Later in my life, it became the sign of relief. The referee that gave you the all clear. I can remember dashing to the bathroom to check during months that I feared an unplanned pregnancy, and the wash of relief with that first spot of crimson. The cramps were even welcome. They were the monthly reminder that I was okay for now. Cramps and blood, the tent poles of my femininity, reminding me that I had the potential to bear a child. Looking back, it feels like years living in a risk zone, accompanied by the deepest fear of unimaginable consequences. After I had children, I took to seeing my monthly period as a small serenity holiday. There were a few days, mandated each month, that I allowed myself to turn inward, to indulge myself with a nap or a hot bath, to light a candle, to feel my body's hum. It even seems right that menstruation has stopped now. That particular phase of my life has ended. I remember feeling my body getting ready to give up this routine. Again, other friends were ahead of me. They'd already stopped and joined a different sisterhood. Now they talked about hot flashes and night sweats, laughed convivially over their mood swings. I felt ready to retire the tattered storage basket that sat on the toilet tank and stop thinking about it. It felt as if my body knew that at this age, I have other priorities, and I could no longer spare time for reproduction and childcare. There were other rhythms for me to establish. But I do miss it now and then. Maybe Rosemary was right after all. My menstrual cycle was like a good friend. A friend who mysteriously came for a monthly visit for over 30 years, and then just as mysteriously stopped coming, like that.